Yo guys, what is up? Welcome back to TCG, the channel that brings you guys competitive Pokemon content. Today we're here with three special guests. Meta discussion for technically the first Limitless TCG online tournament. This last one was fun. I'm with Gabe Shumway, Christian Chase, and Joshua Sutherland. You guys want to introduce yourselves? Gabe, you can start.
Oh, dang, I'm first? Okay. Hey, I'm Gabe Shumway. I'm at a 42 CP before season cancellation. Just staged up to Masters this year. Been having a pretty decent year, bubbled out of top 8 at AC. Been playing since like 2011 era, since juniors. And yeah, happy to be discussing Limitless tournament.
Sup guys, I'm Christian. I've had a pretty good year. I finished the season with 554 CP before the season ended. I day 2'd AC at Knoxville and 64 Daytona, and I was the first and only person to play ADP Big Red at a sanctioned tournament. So that's my claim for that.
I was there. I can confirm this is true.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Joshua Sutherland. I have 618 CP before the season ended. My accomplishments are top 128 AC, top 64 Knoxville, and top 32 Daytona this season. And I'm 29th in North America.
9th and A. Nice, guys. Glad to be here. Let's just get right into this. Let's just address the elephant in the room. The most played deck, and I think, probably one of the strongest decks in the format is ADP Zacian, the big man, Altered Creation GX. Is it right to say that this is the best deck in the format? And if so, why or why not? Want to start? We can go in the same order. We can go Gabe, Christian, and then.
Yeah, I mean, the deck's clearly on top for a reason. ADP Zacian is going to be one of the strongest decks, one of the most played decks. One of the issues, too, that I've seen with it is that a lot of people haven't been playing too much PTCGO. Recently, a lot of people more recently got into it because of quarantine, so I feel like it may increase the numbers in lower-cost decks. People may not want to put in all the money to buy the codes and get the ADP Zacian stuff. But regardless, it's going to be the most popular deck, I think. It's going to be the deck that everyone's out to beat, which kind of makes it an issue if you're going to play it, having to know the mirror match pretty well, which is not necessarily a super skill-based mirror match. So it's the deck that everyone's going to be testing against. Everyone's going to be out to beat it. So it's kind of a sketchy call there, but there are things that you can use to counter the text. A lot of people are going to be playing big Sharp Chaotix as well. You can use the Marshadow. There's a lot of ways that you can go about these. And yeah, it's definitely the deck to beat.
Yeah, I agree with Gabe. I think it's the best deck in the format. I think just its consistency in general. Every game that I play, whether it be PTCGO or like live, I feel like the deck sets up how you're supposed to, and compared to a lot of the other decks in the format, especially like some Malamar variants, at times, I feel like you're just getting that consistency that you're not getting with other decks. But it is going to have that target on its back. It's going to have the high percentage of plays within it in the tournament. So it really just comes down to if you're comfortable playing it, it's the best deck. Go for it. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree with Gabe and Christian. I think the deck is number one. I think it's the top. If you're confident that you won't be teched for it, go ahead and play it because it's straight autopilot. If you just attach Quick Ball Metal Energy, Metal Saucer them back, it's just one of the easiest decks to play.
Yeah, that GX attack is really what's scary, man. I don't know. When they flip it over, especially on PCGO and all their Pokemon light up, that's scary, man. I don't like that. I don't like them taking extra prizes. All right. Speaking of Zacian, ADP Zacian, there's another Zacian variant that's been getting a little bit more hype, and that's Zacian Luck Metal. So we saw people were hyping this a little bit before the release, and then it sort of died down on the peak of the release. And then I think it was Luke River Morse for a Streamer Showdown, I think, actually won the Streamer Showdown with it. And it's been gaining a little bit more popularity. I've seen it on ladder a little bit. Is this good, or?
I think he lost to Alex Garcia, actually, if I remember correctly.
He lost in Swiss, but he ended up winning the whole thing in cut.
Yeah.
Oh, did he? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Is this? Do you guys think this variant is notable? Something to look out for? Is it still strong?
You want me to start?
Yeah. Same word. I'll go that way.
Okay. So I think it has one of, if not the strongest matchup spread in the game right now. I think it boasts a very good ADP matchup, a very good Malamar matchup, which are going to be the two biggest decks of the tournament. Baby Blondes is a little sketch. I'm not exactly sure how that goes. But it boasts a very good matchup against the most popular decks in the room, has a good Pika matchup. I don't think its mill matchup is too great. But it beats what I feel like are going to be the biggest decks, or the two biggest decks in the room, and it fares well against most of the big decks that are going to be played. The one issue too that I think, from what I've seen in gameplay with the deck, is that I think it's the only deck which actually has an issue with the Limitless format, which is best of 1 25 minutes. Well, they changed it to 27, but yeah. Essentially, I think that's the only deck that could run into issues with time, and could run into issues of double game losses being a factor, which could hinder you from getting a solid record.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree with Gabe as well. I think any deck that can go into a tournament and beat ADP Zacian and Malamar, which in my opinion are the two best decks in the format right now, is a good call. I think I tested the Baby Blounds matchup. It is not optimal. And if you're not expecting to hit that Baby Blounds, I feel like it's a really good call for the tournament. If you're just expecting to hit Malamar, ADP Zacian all day.
Yeah, I agree with both of them. I think it has, like Gabe said, it has a good Malian matchup. It has a good ADPZ matchup. But if you're expecting Blounds, I wouldn't play it. But if you're confident enough to avoid Blounds, I should say, then by all means play it.
Yeah, it's a good philosophy. And even with Frying Pan, I think fire is still too much for it. Regardless, I think of whatever fire it is.
I mean, just a single prizer attacker that can hit for 350 is too much for it.
It can have infinite fire energies in your hand, be like, blop.
The one issue, too, though, is I think Baby Blondes is actually not going to be nearly as popular as people make it out to be. So that'll definitely help the deck.
Yeah. I could see that, yeah.
Fourth most popular deck, yeah.
Well, speaking of Baby Blondes, this next thing we're talking about here.
Okay.
We've seen a varying list. I think Stefan has been using a list that I think a lot of people have been opting towards a little bit more. It's this Drachi style build of Welder Blounds, where instead of greens before being really good with turn 1, you could greens for your Fire Crystal and or your Fire Flint Welder for next turn. It's not able to do that anymore. And unfortunately, it shifted a little bit to this variant of the deck where you're using stuff like Jirachi and Orikorio to build your hand up. And Stefan's been doing really good with it. Showdowns and finding some success. Is it worth the hype? Is this something to look out?
Well, with that great intro, I'd like to say I think Green's Blounds is actually still pretty relevant. I've actually been putting some time into the deck. I think it's much more consistent. I feel like Ability Blounds is very high roll right now. From how it feels, I feel like if you're going second with greens, you can just play a max consistency list, and it's actually not too bad. That being said, Ability Blounds is definitely the bigger version of the deck, the one that you're going to have to expect to see and tech against if you're wanting to do well. Feeney's really good against the deck. I don't feel like it's going to be super popular, though. I feel like you'd be better off teching for something like Mill. I think, based on the data I've seen online, Baby Blounds is set to be the 4th most popular deck behind Mill, Maui, and ADPZ. I don't think it's a deck that's necessarily worth teching for going to the tournament unless you're boasting a slightly unfavorable that you just try to slightly improve. I think the deck's actually in a really good spot, though. I think it has a really good ADPZ matchup. The only problem is its Malamar matchup is not too hot at times. A lot of people make it out to be an auto loss. I don't feel like it's to that extent. I feel like Cramorant gives you a really solid edge in the matchup if Maui doesn't have bench space for Mew or can't get the search cards out. Most people are making it out to be 80-20, 90-10 Malamar. I think it's 60-40. And yeah, I feel like the deck's actually in a much better spot than people make it out to be. Just, still try to dodge those Malamars.
I've tested both versions, like the greens and the ability. I've tested the ability a little bit more of the Blacephalon variants, and I think the deck's good. I think it has a really solid ADPZ matchup. I agree on the Malamar matchup front. I don't think it's an auto loss. It used to be, obviously, when Blounds opted to play like Pidgey, the Pidgey engine, but now it's not. It's definitely doable. But I really do think that Baby Blounds thrives on a tag team dependent meta. It really struggles in, like, if Malamar's going to be one of the top plays, which it is expected to be, I think Baby Blounds will struggle. I mean, if you expect to hit ADPZ all day, go for it, but I didn't really like its Mill matchup either at all. and I expect a lot of Mill, Maui, and ADPZ, so it's not my favorite going into the event.
Yeah, I haven't tested Green's Baby Blondes, but I have tested the Orcorio version. But like Gabe and Ethan were saying, or Gabe and Christian were saying, like it has a awful Malamar matchup. It's not an auto loss probably, but it's pretty bad. And it relies on like Christian said, it relies on a tag team format. And if you're gonna hit ADPZ, if we see Mew 3 Mally, if we see like any of these tag teams, it'll do great. But if you hit spell tag Mally all day, should be bad.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think like that Mally matchup is again like what scares me a little bit. It's just you think like you're 1-1 trading, but even with 1-1 trading, like just Baby Blonde taking 2 prizes just like that you really can't catch up, especially. I mean, you're enforced in a lot of cases to have to middle. Not great, but that's what it is. Well, that's perfect, man. It's like running great here. We're going into Mally now. Mally,
Yeah.
I think the spell tags Mally is what we'll cover more. We're not really seeing a lot of Ultra Necrozma. It's not really needed here. It's not really the goal of the variant now. It's sort of finally shaped back into we're playing 4 quick balls, the 4 spell tags, 4 treasures, and we're just trying to get out our Garatinas and our other things. I know there's some people here who are on the Mally train. I used to be on the Mally train. I'm not so sure anymore. Let's see, guys. Is Mally good? Is it still hype?
Yeah, I think Mally's in a pretty solid spot at the moment. There's also spell tag Mally versus Mew Mally. I thought Mew Mally was in a really good spot for a while. I feel like it's fading off now. I don't think it's in the best of spots just based on the prevalence of ADPZ and the fact that spell tag Mally deals with that so much better as well as the Baby Blondes matchup. Definitely play spell tag Mally right now. There's still a couple of different ways you can go with it. You can play just something with a few more GXs and that way to tech for the mirror, since it's going to be a very popular deck. I think it's going to be at least 20-25% of the field. There's different things you can play to tech for the mirror. You can play like Ultra Necrozma. You can play Gengar Mimikyu. Right now, I feel like Solgaleo Lunala is still probably the way to go, just based on the deck's different matchups. But a pretty standard list is fine. One tech that I've been testing quite a bit with the deck is Lily's Full Force, which has actually been a really solid inclusion where you draw 4, go down to 2 at the end of the turn. Usually Mally only needs a supporter and another card for the next turn, and it also allows the Solgaleo Lunala's GX attack. None of your Pokemon can take any effects of attacks at all the next turn, so it basically just gives you an extra free 200 damage. Since you're almost never using a GX attack with that deck anyway, it actually puts you in a really solid spot, and you can draw 4. It usually allows you to get the whole combo off. I've been really liking it in the deck. And yeah, I think Mally's in a really solid spot. Again, Mally mirrors are kind of something that you're going to have to be versed in. I feel like it takes a pretty solid ADP match, a pretty solid Baby Blondes. And yeah, I'd say go for it if you want.
Yeah, I agree with Gabe. Mally is the deck I put the most time into in this format and the previous standard format. The thing I enjoy about Mally is just the fact that it has options to cover almost anything you want it to. If you want to tech for a bait, like to not auto lose to Goons and Mill, you can play Trevnor and Marnie to cripple their setup early game and essentially steal wins. You can go the Solgaleo Lunala in Lily's Full Force. You can play Gengar Mimikyu, which is my favorite. GX, I feel like Spell Tag Mally just has the edge right now over Mewtwo Mally, just because you can play those GXs that Mewtwo Mally plays most of the time, but still have the option to go into Tina Tag early game, which is just sometimes too much for decks to deal with if you're getting the turn 2 Shadow Impact off of Tag. If you know where to put your spell tags, it's really hard, and you set up correctly, it's really hard to lose with Malamar. And I feel like that's a big issue for a lot of people going into the event, is they're afraid Malamar isn't consistent, but the deck is extremely consistent now. In my testing, it's almost one of the most consistent decks I've played. So I think Malamar's my top choice going into the event, and I don't really care saying, like, I'll be playing Malamar. So.
And if you're checking for one person, that's 600 online.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
in one of my 4 pools.
Yeah, Mally's my top choice too. I'm most likely playing it as well. The thing is, I I think it's not going to be as popular as Gabe says it's going to be, because like Christian was saying, people say it's inconsistent, people don't respect it, and they just won't touch it because people call it, I guess you could say, the purple Greninja back in the day, if you all know what that is. But but I think Spell Tag Maui is the priority over Mew 3 Maui.
Yeah, it's a common consensus. I've been hearing that Spell Tag variant is better than Mew Maui. I was on Mew Maui. I won a cup with it. Yeah, I won a cup with it. I don't know. Live testing too, but again, it's just that consistency. Getting yourself a list that is
I mean, Mew Maui can beat Spell Tag Maui as long as the Mew Maui doesn't start Mewtwo in my testing, because they can just Ultra Neck or Baby Blound to set it up. But, I mean, you're banking on the fact that you're not starting a tag team, which is like, you play like 8 of them.
Even if you do, it's fine. You can just bait them into killing the tag team and then go into Baby Blound a lot of the time.
Oh, true, yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
It's good. If you play Ultra, you have an advantage in the matchup.
Yeah,
But they can also do stuff where they don't take prizes.
Most players I've seen on PCGO also go for a Whorehouse over Sky Scorching Light. They waste their GX attack, and I'm like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sky Scorching Light changed.
A great catcher still away as well. So. All right, perfect.
So
Yeah. So next we're going to be talking about Pika Raw. This deck had a little bit more hype going into the start of the format. Quick ball being really nice.
yes, go.
Yeah.
Hear me out here?
Guys, on Pika. Pika's still in the spot.
Your mic was lagging out a little there, but
Yeah.
you basically just want us to discuss Pika, right?
Yeah, Pika. Just talk about
Okay.
Pika.
Okay.
So you may know me as the person who's always played Pikarom, this year at least. I tried everything there. I did really well with it quarter 1, tried everything to make it work quarter 2.
Who?
You best believe I've tried just about everything to make Pikarom work this quarter, and it's just not. I was originally playing it for the tournament when it went up 2 weeks ago. I was playing Pika Hammers before it was even a thing. I just thought it up with some friends. Yeah, the deck's just not in a good enough spot right now. It takes slightly unfavorables across most of the board. Turn 1 full blitz is usually your only out to doing that, and at this point in the format, you just can't get it consistently enough without sacrificing text for different matchups. That just causes you to suffer in other matchups. Pikarom's just not looking too hot right now. It's seen a lot better days, and unfortunately, it's not at the best spot. I wouldn't be playing it. I don't recommend you play it either. I don't recommend you tech for it even.
Yeah, I never even played Pikarom. So, my opinion on this isn't as good as Gabe's is going to be, but I don't like it right now either. I played a few games with it. It didn't feel great, and I just moved on to other decks. So that's where I was with the deck. Not much.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about this. Pikarom's just bad. It loses to ADPZ. Loses to Spell Tag Maui. It doesn't have a good matchup spread. That's about all I got.
Speaking the truth, does not care. That is awesome. Yeah. I think the ADP is something that definitely point out there. I don't really see a clear game plan, even with the turn 1 full blitz. Just Ultra Creation is just annoying to deal with, especially because a lot of lists that are playing Jirachi, it's a tag team kill and a Jirachi play.
Even the metal resistance doesn't matter with Choo Choo and Pikarom. They can still one shot after Ultra Creation on a Pikarom.
Yeah, with Shrine and stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd hope to hit Pika tomorrow.
Yeah.
3 dubs.
Same here.
All right, next we're talking about, I think, the most hyped variant of Mewtwo, which is the Ultimate Mewtwo variant, the one that Hamry Brand used to win the last regionals before the big virus shut down the events around the world. And it's been receiving a lot of hype. I know a lot of streamers are playing it. I have some friends who are really behind this deck. They tell me, yeah, go ahead, play this deck. It's really good, man. But I'm not quite sure. I just want to hear your guys' thoughts on Ultimate Mewtwo. Is it worth the hype? Is this the deck to play? Is this deck to beat?
Just sticking to Ultimate Mewtwo right now?
Yeah, just Ultimate.
Okay. I think that deck's really good. I think that deck's in a really good spot. The biggest issue is if you're watching this right now, do not pick up the deck. Leave the cards there. The deck takes so much skill. I'd probably be playing it, but I just don't really have the time or resources necessary to put it into the deck right now, and I honestly don't want to spend that much time learning this deck before a tournament. I have better things to be doing with my time than learning how to play Ultimate Mewtwo. But I think if you've been practicing with the deck a lot, if you know the ins and outs of it, then it's one of the best plays you can make right now. I think the only thing that's making the deck so low in popularity is just the incredibly high skill cap that it has.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to play, but like, how could you pass up a deck that plays ADP and Big Rat? Like, that's pretty broken. Pretty broken.
Oh my
combo.
goodness gracious.
Two.
I like the deck. I played it a little when it came out. It does take an insanely high skill cap to play, and I just like I also didn't haven't had the time to put enough effort into it to make it my play for tomorrow. I think I agree with Gabe. If you have played it a lot, I think the deck's really, really good. The few games where I was putting the actual strategy to work, I just felt like the deck was unstoppable. But yeah, you can't just pick it up tonight. But I think it's a really, really good deck, and I think for the people who do know what to do with it, play it correctly, they're going to do really well.
Yeah, I agree with both of Gabe and Christian. I think the deck is very high skill cap. I think if you're gonna play it, don't play it now. It's too late. You need to practice for months in advance with this deck. It's very, very high skill cap.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's scary, man. I think the main appeal is the ADP matchup. I have seen some ADPs beat it, but it's hard. I mean, Mewtwo does have to set up. I wouldn't say it's clunky. It has a lot of search outs, but I have seen times where it can brick and can struggle to get all the pieces out, especially because it needs to get a lot of things in the discard pile by turn 2, especially if it's going second. All right. Next, we'll talk about the other Mewtwo variants. We talked a little bit about Mew Maui. I was sort of getting a consensus that it's just a little bit worse than spell tags. I think we covered a good amount on that deck. I don't really see the appeal for it. But the other deck I think it's been dying down in popularity is Mew Welder. Did win the international championships when Sword and Shield first became legal. And then I kind of fell off a little bit. I know there's some players like Rahul who are devoted to this deck and love Mew Welder, but not really a lot of other people. Yeah, guys, is this deck still good? Is something to be scared of? I just need your thoughts on that.
Shoot you straight. I have that deck list submitted right now. I'm submitted Mew Welder right now for the event. I've been doing testing with it over the past couple days. It seems like it's in a really solid spot. I think it's one of the few decks that has a solid. Basically, the 3 decks that I was out to beat with this were the 3 decks that you're out to beat that you should be out to beat in this format are ADPZ, Malamar, and Mill, in my opinion, for this event. And I feel like that's the only deck that has solid, at least 50-50 or better matchups against those 3, which is really the appeal to it. You just need to be able to draw consistently well, which can sometimes be an issue, but based on the fact that it's best of 1, a lot of times you have to go for a deck that can run hot. And I feel like that's actually a really solid play for this tournament. If I don't find anything better in the next few hours, you'll see me playing that tomorrow.
Yeah, you said something interesting there. Positive Psychic Maui matchup? Can you explain that?
Yeah, you played Jirachi GX.
Yeah, I was like, what? Oh, okay.
You played Jirachi GX, so it gives you added consistency over playing Weakness Guard energy. And
yeah.
I still don't see how that's. I still don't see how that makes it positive. They can still 2-shot the spell tag and stuff.
Are you playing SB Oxus? How are you killing?
No, it's just been all the games have been really close. It's been really down to the wire, and most of the matchups that I've seen with the deck, I feel like Mimi's been coming out on top a lot of the time, just because Malamar does have somewhat of an inherent inconsistency at times, and I feel like the matchup's pretty luck based, but I feel like it's around 50-50.
Okay, that's fair.
Interesting.
Yeah, I haven't tested that matchup, I guess, as recently as I should have. I just wrote it off. A favorable matchup for Maui.
Same.
I wrote off Mew Welder a little bit ago. I played it for the last cup before all this happened. In the same format, and it just didn't feel good. It didn't draw well for me. I felt like a lot of you take a really hard L to Baby Blounds, you do beat ADPZ, but you also lose Malamar, or at the time, I guess. With I wasn't playing Jirachi GX, so I don't know how much that swings the matchup.
It just helps your consistency for the most part.
Gotcha. But I wrote off Mew Welder a little bit ago, so I haven't tested it recently. I haven't checked if it like repositioned itself. But I haven't been a huge fan of the deck up to this point, and that's just me when it comes to Mew Welder.
Okay. Yeah. If I wasn't playing Psychic Maui for this tournament, if I didn't think Mew 3 Welder had if in my opinion I think Psychic Maui is still favored, but I don't know. But Mew 3 Welder would be my secondary choice because I just really like the consistency for the deck. If I wasn't playing big blowns either.
Blowns, of course. All right. So going from Ultimate Mewtwo and the Mewtwo variants, let's talk a little about mill and control. Now I know nobody wants to talk about mill and control. Not a lot of people do. I might, but not a lot of people do. I sort of like the style of mill and control variants. Now there are two actually different things, so we'll break it up into a little bit. So we'll start with mill. This was a deck that was piloted by Cincino, a rat that came out in Sword and Shield, bringing back the Zoroark ability, and it did fairly well. I mean, two made top 8. I think one was DQ'd because of a decklist error, and the other one was in top 4. But putting that aside, it did find a lot of traction. I saw a lot of local events, and I see a lot of people maybe who aren't as experienced in the game playing because it's very easy to pick up and it's very easy to play. Do you think this deck will be popular because of that low skill gap? What are you thinking about? Does it have favorables against these big decks that we're seeing like ADP? Is it really a contender to possibly make it to top 8 or get close?
Yeah, so first of all, about that, I believe the guy just submitted a meme list, and then he forgot to change it. So that's why I got
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, my opinion on the deck, too, I feel like it's very different in these online tournaments than in IRL. I feel like every day, I'm pulling up Facebook, scrolling through, looking at Hayfonte or Burbank, seeing, oh, yeah, here we had this online tournament with 50 people and Mill won. Here we had this online tournament with 40 people and Mill won. Like, that's all I ever see. I'm like, okay, Mill is winning all these online tournaments. And then I'm looking at different data and stuff. It has much higher popularity of people playing it, especially since I feel like the skill cap with Mill is the lowest it's ever been, especially with the more aggressive style that it's been taking lately. I also think that if you're playing the deck, if you've been looking around, Alex Szymanski has actually been tearing it up with the Salazzle Mill version of the deck, where it plays Salazzle and Cinchino. Has some extra draw, plays Fire Crystals, Fire Energy. I think that version of the deck is actually much better. I don't know if the list is out there anywhere. You can probably find it. But I think that's the optimal version of the deck to be playing right now. Maybe somewhat of a controversial opinion, but I feel like that's the best way you can be playing the deck right now. I feel like it's in a fairly solid spot matchup-wise, but the one thing is that if it's going to be more popular, the one deck that people hate losing to, myself included, is Mill. So you got to watch out for some of the decks that people are going to be bringing your way.
Yeah, that sneaky one Bellabug.
Yeah.
I
agree.
I mean, please play Mill. I want to beat you.
Like, it's a good deck. The skill cap's lower than it ever has been. I think a big issue for the deck before was the Stinger Blown. I've actually seen some Mill lists run Latios and Aurora and Tag Call, so you can just have Quick Ball, Goose Hala in hand, and Quick Ball for Latios, Goose Hala for the Aurora, and then block the Stinger if you know it's coming. It's actually how I lost in top 4 of that cup I played Mewtwo Welder. But I think that's pretty good. I think the deck's really good. I think it has a lot of options. I think Yelled Run is really good in the deck for the ADPZ matchup, which was a little sketchy beforehand. And Mill's good. Cinchino Mill's good. I haven't actually looked at the Salazzle. I haven't seen the Salazzle variant, but I also do think Pidgey control is pretty good as well. Right now, I think it's well positioned. I don't think it took as big as it hit as people said it did. And I think Danny Altavilla wrote an article on it on Limitless.
Yeah, it was Pidgeotto, yeah.
Yeah, it was on
Pidgeotto, yeah. Yeah, and I like that. I think the deck's really good right now. I don't know which one I would choose going into the event if I was playing Mill, but I think Pidgeotto would be still on my mind just as much as Cinchino would be.
Okay, when it comes to Chinchino Mill, I haven't done much testing because I hate Mill and control decks for the most part. But in my opinion, I think Chinchino Mill is pretty solid. It has a good Maui matchup. I don't know how the Baby Bonds matchup goes. I would assume they just go Victini and just loop Fire Energy if they play Victini Prism Star. And then, but you also targeting for it. So.
Mm. Yeah. And like Christian said, let's talk about the other variant. The control variant, Pidgeotto control, coming back. After we thought it was dead because of Orangu from Sword and Shield. Been getting a little bit of traction. I know Altavilla wrote an article on it on Limitless page itself. There's a really good article I read. It has a lot of good information. Regardless of if you are playing it, you should definitely read it and check it out so that you know how to play that matchup again. Knowing how to play decks is the best way. Is it worth the hype, guys? Should people be afraid? I mean, it is 25 minutes, but are we going to see Pidgeottos coming to a 25-minute festival?
You should absolutely not be afraid of it. There will be 5 people max playing the deck out of almost 1,000 now. They're over 1,000 now. You should not be afraid of the deck. You should not tech for the deck.
Yeah.
If you're teching for Mill, a lot of times you're teching for that deck as well. That being said, I think the people who do play and put the time into it will perform very well with it just because they know the ins and outs and they know how to traverse around the difficult matchups. Granted, I haven't put any time with the deck. The fact that Zacian can Intrepid Sword seems somewhat sketchy and difficult for it, but hey, I'm not the Pidgey player. They know how to work around that. I'll let them deal with that. I think Pidgey is a solid play if you put time into it. As I said, I think people will perform well with it if they've been testing it for a while. But don't be afraid of it. Don't tech for it.
Yeah, I already talked about it, but I agree with Gabe. Don't tech for it. There's not going to be a lot of people playing it. It's a good deck, though, and it's the same thing. I think it's almost in the same boat as Ultimate Mewtwo, probably just to a lesser extent, where the people who do play it and have put the time in will do well.
Yeah, Pidgeotto control is a pretty good call for the tournament, but don't expect to hit more. If you hit one of the 5 players, you're just unlucky. Don't expect to hit more than 1.
Don't expect to hit more than 0.
Or even more than 0 for that matter, yeah. No more than 1 if you do hit it.
I sure hope not. I'm gonna hit 3 in a row.
My opinion is 0 to 1.
0 1. There you go.
If you hit 2, you're insanely unlucky.
Bro, that is
or insanely
bad.
lucky, depends on what you're playing.
Oh, true.
Yeah, just play big bonds, just go double Poiple.
Yeah.
Busted.
So good. I'll never see it coming. I'd be surprised if it actually is the number 1 deck for me right now going into it. That is what I'm most likely submitting to actually play tomorrow morning. Because I have put in the time last format and I've been grinding like 20 hours over the last 2 days with the deck. There are some things
so much free time. My God.
My record versus ADP right now I think is 5-3 right now. Which I'm okay with. It takes having a slightly favorable against that, but you hit after over and over in the ladder, and a lot of it comes down to coin flips and how lucky they get. I mean, I'll set so I'll go into that in a second, just because I know a little about this deck, so I can probably give you most insight on it. But essentially, I've had times where I set up the lock, and then I go okay, 0 cards in hand, let's chip Ice Axe, and I 2 times in a row it was custom catcher Marty. And I was like, are you serious? I put in all this work to lock, and then I have to give you a custom catcher for free? And you rip the switch and everything else you need to get out the lock on it. But I think, again, a misconception, people oh, I have Zacian in my deck, right? They can't lock me because then I go, oh, I'll Intrepid Sword for 3, right? Now I have 3 cards.
Yeah, they're just milling themselves at that point if they do that, because then you just go Surge, Jesse James, Mars, if you really wanted to.
Yeah, that is a thing, but it's actually hard to loop that because getting that consistently with Surge and getting everything back, because you have to always chip every turn. It's not consistent enough to get back, even with even to get back and that. So actually, what you do is consistently, or you do it every other turn, depending on what they do. But you can get the loop where you go stamp Surge Mars Velba, and then Ice Axe them. So you're stamping every turn they interrupt. So you always get Stamp back, you always get Ice Axe back, and then you're usually getting Palpad back so that you Palpad back and double Mars. And then eventually you'll get it. I mean, I hope that if it's getting close to time, by that time, and it's like 15 minutes into it, 18 minutes into the round, that the opponent knows their luck and they know they have no way out of it, basically. Because I can constantly...
They'll be a good sportsman and scoop at that point, yeah.
Because I know...
The deck also doesn't take that long to lock on PDCGO, in my opinion. If you read the article from Danny, the actions go a lot faster.
Yeah,
yeah.
It definitely still takes me time to do it, just because when you're setting up everything, you have to always make sure you don't do the wrong thing, because I can't count how many times I've misplayed doing it when I'm like, oh, I did not bring... I look at my discard pile, I'm like, oh, there's 2 Stamp in there, and I need that to lock in next turn. So there are times where you can drop it. I mean, I've had people who are generous and they know they're locked and they're scooped. I had someone who I played against where I had to do the lock for like 20 turns in a row because he wouldn't scoop. And it basically came down
Man
to...
had to have been on a win streak, I'm just saying.
And the interesting thing is...
Yeah.
Yeah, an interesting thing with that also is, like, sequencing is even hard. Like, you have to, in order to discard cards off Mars, you have to draw it out of deck. So you have to position it correctly. And I'm still confused on... I should probably look at this, but how the cards are arranged from top to bottom when you use resource management. I don't... Is it the farmost left is the top, or is the farmost left the bottom?
Farmost left is the top, I believe.
The farmost left is top.
The one on the top.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. I should probably realize that. When I don't know, I just put it in the middle, the one I want to draw into, and it usually works out. But yeah, there are answers to that. And then even with the Oranguru, at that point, it's really not as big of a threat as you think. When you are thinning a lot of these outs, it's just hard for them to sort of separate. Even when they're down, it's just hard to draw. I mean, they get one every turn, but even when they get one every turn, it's like, oh, what are they gonna do, right? I stamp, get the card out of your hand, right? And then if it's something that you need, right, you're either forced to play it, and then I basically get my turn again. It's not as intimidating. So yeah, definitely know how to play around that matchup if you are playing against it, but don't be afraid of it. I think that's the consensus. All right, so that covers, at least in my eyes, the main decks that I think we're gonna see tomorrow. Is there any decks in your guys' eyes that I didn't mention that you think is worth mentioning? I know Josh is a big Blounds player. I know Big Blounds is getting a little bit of hype. Do you have any thoughts on that as the CEO of Blounds?
I will not play Big Blounds for this event, with Maui and Baby Blounds being the most, like, 2 big decks in the format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good thought process to that.
I think there's a few things that weren't mentioned. Just Goons as a deck.
I was gonna bring up Goons. Yeah, Goons is a good meta call, but the deck is cheeks.
Yeah.
Like it really depends. If you draw the right cards in the right order, I think it's actually a really solid meta call for this event. I don't think it's a good deck overall, but if you can draw well with the deck, if you can hit the right matchups, I think it's a good call for this event.
Ethan's smiling because he knows what's up.
Ethan,
I'm sorry, but
talking about Goons because he didn't want to leak.
Ethan, I'm sorry. Goons is trash. You shouldn't play it.
Literally, I played it for the first opener. I regret it. I regret it. That's why.
Okay, good. I'm glad we're on that train.
Literally, the people who I played it with were like, "Wait, why are we playing this deck again?" And we're like, "Wait, okay."
Wasn't it you and like Zach Cooper and another person?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't have any cards online, and I was like, "Okay, I have 1 Dedenne online and 2 Jirachi. We're playing, or like, I was like, can I borrow Jirachis?" And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, we're playing Goons. And I lost the Firebox. I basically, I was so upset. Thank God I got canceled.
One other deck too is Mag Cargo GX. Is I think that deck is worth mentioning. If you play it's another one of those decks. Like, it doesn't take too much skill. It takes a fair amount of skill, but if you put, it's a deck that you can play like a week ahead of the event and be able to learn pretty well with. I think it's a deck that's actually in a really solid spot right now. You just need to be able to play it. It's one of those. It's kind of like the closest thing we have to a Greens deck right now in the format, where you're basically just playing out of your deck with Smooth Over and Primate Wisdom. I think it's actually in a really solid spot. I did some testing with it earlier this week. I think it's positioned well. I lost to it in the original Limitless qualifier, and yeah, I feel like someone can definitely run deep with the deck.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's definitely scary. Anything that plays amulets is scary. I don't like challenge. It's pretty busted, especially when it's like on stuff like Macargo, where it's hitting for stupid amounts of damage and it's giving up one prize. And I mean, we don't have Tool Scrapper yet. We'll get that in like 2 weeks. But Island Challenge Amulet, while there's no real way to remove it, I mean, Faba is a card. There's no real main way to remove it. It's definitely scary. And definitely respect Island Challenge. It's a mouthful. Island Challenge Amulet right now.
Just call it Amulet, bud. You're good.
Amulet. Ika, bud. Yeah, I think one last deck I think that should be mentioned that's been gaining a lot of hype and I've seen a little bit is Checkmate. Version Checkmate.
Checkmate. That I haven't heard about that deck in quite a while.
Yeah.
I've actually been doing some testing with it, but I haven't been doing Persian Checkmate. I did quite a bit of testing. I think it was last week.
I have done
Nag
zero testing for this deck, so I have nothing on this.
I've tested
Nag Checkmate. I think it's good, but yeah.
Nag Checkmate. R-Wade's
Nag Checkmate's in a really good spot. It's just the matter of, from my experience and my testing with the deck, a lot of times the problem is just like the card you need is on the bottom of your deck. And you're just thinning, drawing more. And you just won't be able to hit it a lot of the times, which is just unfortunate. But that's the biggest issue and the biggest thing that lost me games.
I think time is also matter with that deck. It tends to, a lot of the games, at least in my experience playing instantly, it's those games.
I disagree. I think you can play it fast, especially in PTCGO. It doesn't take that many actions per turn. It just takes a lot of thinking. But if you have the logistics down with the deck, I think you should be fine.
Aren't most matchups you just Stinger and then KO a tag team?
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah. And then against Malamar, you try to bait them into the 3-prize turn with every way you can, and then go Lucamine Prism.
Okay.
And then Baby Blonde.
Lucamine Prisms.
Lucamine Prisms bust.
Bro,
Yeah,
good card. That sounds good.
Well, are there any other decks you guys think we should be talking about? I don't know.
Cat Dog.
I hope nothing out of the ordinary that we've covered up pretty soon.
Cat Dog might be good. I'm honestly not sure. I haven't done enough testing with it. I know people who've done testing with it. They say it's pretty good. It's just a matter of drawing well with the deck and getting it to beat ADP, which at the moment I don't think it does, but you might be able to take it out to beat that.
Let me clarify something. Cat Dog's Catterday, right?
Yes, Catterday Roxie.
Okay, yeah, that deck's garbage. I hate that deck.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know what it was.
That deck is hot garbage. And I like it how, I think it was Logan said, oh, it beats Malamar because you just go...
it does, but don't talk if you haven't tested the deck.
Like, what do you do against Mew? You don't do it.
Bro, you spell tag the Mew and then go Roxie. It's not hard.
Lana's Finishing Rod. Quick Ball Mew.
Okay,
go.
I tagged your Mew again, but it's not hard.
Holy
It's so... Oh my god.
You're telling me that
It's so easy.
It's not, though.
That's against Maui? What?
Mally's...
It has a good matchup against Maui. It beats all 1-prize decks.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh my goodness. I'm not talking about this
Roxie
anymore.
3 times, you go, excuse me.
Deck's garbage. End of story.
It just is kind of rough against ADP and Mill, but if you can fix those matchups, which I'm probably going to try after this call to fix those matchups, but if you can find a way to do that, then I think it's actually a decent play.
Oh my goodness.
I think there will be people who play it. I hope I don't hit that, but there definitely will be people who play it. So, do be aware.
Can we kick Gabe from the call?
Can we kick Gabe? No.
Bro, chill.
No hate towards anyone. None of that. Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for the call. Thank you, everyone, for joining me, Christian, Gabe, and Josh. Before we go, anyone you guys want to shout out? We can go in the same order, like Gabe, Christian, and Josh.
Okay, so shout out to my testing group, the Poke Rejects, great group of guys, mostly out of Massachusetts, Connecticut area. Great group of guys to talk to. Shout out to, friends, family, anyone who helps me out. That's all I have for now. Oh, and check out Rudy's new album.
Oh,
yes.
man.
Yes.
Always. Check out Rudy's new album.
All of us shout out Rudy.
Yeah, we all shout out Rudy. So I'll start with my Rudy shout out. Shout out Rudy Wade. His new album slaps. Good stuff. Shout out to my TikTok. We Hate Crayons. Very fire TikTok account. Go look it up. And then shout out to my friends and family, my testing groups, everyone who helps me in this game. Very fun game because everyone who's been a part of it.
Okay, so first of all, shout out to Rudy Wade and his new album. Go check it out. It's busted. Shout out to everyone shout out to my team, Team Tundra, and then shout out to Night Watch Gaming. We're trying to get content slowly but surely out there for you all. Shout out to for Ethan for having me on and Gabe and Christian for being good partners. And then shout out Joe.
Shout out Joe. Of course. Perfect, guys. Thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy this, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe as it helps out the channel. And yeah, thank you guys so much. And we'll see you guys in the next video.
あなたの見てる正体誰もよ